The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 miles of polished crystal floors. 12 different species sat in their assigned seats, each representing civilizations that had ruled the stars for thousands of years. Today, they talked about a problem that made them all angry. A new species had learned to travel faster than light, and they called themselves humans. Council Speaker Zeth Kara stood 20 feet tall. His body looked like living diamond, with light flowing through his crystal skin in patterns that showed his mood. Right now, those patterns burned red with anger. He had ruled the Vorthon Empire for 800 years and had never seen such rude behavior from a new species. "These humans refuse to follow our laws," Zeth Kara said, in a voice that sounded like breaking glass. "They ignore our messages. They build weapons instead of temples. They fight each other instead of seeking peace. They are nothing but primitive warmongers who barely know how to leave their own planet." Admiral Kexthul nodded his massive head. The hegemony commander looked like a cross between a shark and a rhinoceros, with gray skin covered in natural armor plates. His species had conquered 40 star systems through careful planning and superior technology. He had never lost a battle. "My scouts report that these humans have only been traveling between stars for 50 of their years," Kexthul said. "Most species take 500 years to build a proper space fleet. These humans are still using crude fusion engines and metal hulls. They know nothing about plasma shields or quantum torpedoes." The other council members made sounds of agreement. Ambassador Yilmoth of the Trade Federation clicked his 4 arms together in a pattern that meant disgust. His insect-like species controlled all commerce in 12 sectors. They had made the rules about how new species must behave when they first left their home worlds. "The humans have established colonies in 6 star systems without asking permission," Yilmoth buzzed. "They mine asteroids without paying taxes. They refuse to accept our currency or follow our trade laws. This cannot be allowed to continue." High Priestess Silana floated above her seat in a bubble of purple energy. Her people, the Ethereals, had given up physical bodies long ago and existed as pure thought. They considered themselves the most advanced species in the galaxy because they had transcended material needs. "I have tried to contact their minds," Silana said in a voice like singing wind. "But their thoughts are chaotic and violent. They think constantly about war and conquest. They dream of building bigger weapons and fighting stronger enemies. I have never encountered such a disturbed species." The council chamber filled with angry voices as each representative shared their complaints about humanity. The Zenith Collective reported that humans had rejected their offer to share advanced medical technology in exchange for military service. The Crystal Hegemony said humans had laughed at their demands to surrender all weapons and accept peaceful integration into galactic society. But what made the council most angry was how humans had responded to their official first contact message. Every other species had sent gifts and humble requests for guidance when they first met the council. The humans had sent back a simple message that said, "Thank you for the welcome. We look forward to meeting as equals. Please respect our independence and territorial boundaries." "Equals." Zeth Kara repeated the word like it tasted bad. "They think they are our equals. A species that still uses chemical rockets and metal bullets thinks it can negotiate with civilizations that have mastered time and space." Admiral Kexthul stood up and his armor plates shifted into an attack position. "I suggest we end this problem quickly. Let me take my fleet to their home system and show them what real power looks like. Once they see our ships and weapons, they will surrender immediately and beg for mercy." "How many ships do you need?" asked Council Leader Morden, an ancient being whose species had been exploring space when most others were still living in caves. 200 ships should be enough," Kexthul replied. "I will bring vessels from every member species. The humans will see the combined might of the Galactic Council and understand how foolish their resistance has been. When they see our plasma cannons and quantum shields, they will realize they have no choice but to submit." The council voted quickly. Every member agreed that humanity needed to learn their place in the galactic order. They would send the largest fleet ever assembled for a first contact mission. This fleet would arrive at Earth with overwhelming force and demand immediate surrender. "The humans will have 3 options," Zeth Kara announced. "They can surrender unconditionally and accept integration into our society. They can resist and be destroyed, or they can flee their home world and never return. We will give them 1 hour to decide." As the council meeting ended, none of the aliens bothered to study human history or military capabilities. They assumed that any species so young and primitive could not possibly pose a threat to their advanced civilizations. This was their first mistake. On Earth, deep inside a mountain in Colorado, warning lights flashed red in the United Earth Defense Headquarters. Captain Jake Morrison stood in front of a wall of screens showing long-range sensor data. The readings made his blood run cold. 200 ships, Morrison said to the other officers in the room. They're coming in fast and they're not trying to hide their approach. President Lisa Carter had arrived 20 minutes ago when the first alerts came in. She looked tired but determined as she studied the tactical displays. Her administration had been preparing for this day ever since humanity's first contact with alien civilizations 3 years ago. Are our people ready? Carter asked. Admiral Ben Rodriguez nodded. All defense fleets are at full alert. Project Hammerfall is online and waiting for orders. Our ships are powered up and positioned throughout the system. General Kate Sullivan pointed to a star map showing the alien fleet's course. They'll reach Earth in 72 hours if they maintain current speed. Our analysis suggests this is a show of force, not a scientific expedition. They're coming here to make us surrender. Morrison pulled up files on his tablet showing everything. They knew about Galactic Council military technology. The aliens had powerful weapons and strong defenses, but they followed predictable patterns in combat. They preferred to intimidate enemies into surrendering rather than fight long battles. They think we're primitive, Morrison said. They think we'll be scared of their big ships and advanced technology. They have no idea what we've been building out here. Carter looked around the room at her military leaders. These men and women had spent their entire careers preparing for the day when humanity would have to fight for its independence against superior alien forces. That day had finally arrived. Send the activation codes to all defense platforms, Carter ordered. Wake up our sleeping fleet. If these aliens want to see what humans can do when threatened, we'll give them a demonstration they'll never forget. The next 72 hours would determine whether humanity remained free or became slaves to an alien empire that had never learned to respect the word no. The UES Retribution floated in the darkness between Mars and Jupiter, hidden among the scattered rocks of the asteroid belt. Captain Jake Morrison walked through the ship's corridors, checking on his crew as they prepared for battle. The ship, around him, hummed with barely contained power, every system running at peak efficiency. Unlike the smooth, elegant vessels that other species preferred, the Retribution looked like what it was built for: war. The hull stretched 800 meters from nose to tail, covered in thick armor plating and bristling with weapon systems. Gun turrets jutted out at odd angles, sensor arrays swept back and forth like mechanical eyes, and launch tubes for missiles, and drones covered every available surface. "Captain on the bridge," announced Lieutenant Sarah Mitchell as Morrison entered the command center. The bridge was a cramped, functional space filled with screens and control panels. Every station was designed for maximum efficiency during combat, with no wasted space for comfort or decoration. Morrison took his seat in the captain's chair and studied the tactical display. "Status report, people." Commander Rick Hayes turned from the weapons console. "All gun batteries loaded and ready. The main railguns are charged to full power. Missile tubes 1 through 40 are loaded with high-explosive warheads. Point defense systems are online and tracking targets. Dr. Amy." Parker looked up from her science station. "The gravity cannon is ready for testing, Captain. I've run every simulation I can think of, but we've never fired it at a real target before. The theory says it should punch through any known shield technology." Morrison nodded. The gravity cannon was humanity's newest weapon, designed by their best scientists after studying captured alien technology. Instead of firing bullets or energy beams, it created a focused gravity wave that could crush anything in its path. "What about our electronic warfare systems?" Morrison asked. "All jamming equipment is ready," Mitchell replied. "We can disrupt their communications and targeting systems across a wide area. The AI virus packages are loaded and ready to deploy against any alien computer systems we can penetrate." Morrison smiled grimly. While other species focused on building bigger guns and stronger shields, humans had learned to fight dirty. They used electronic attacks, psychological warfare, and any other advantage they could find. In human military doctrine, the only rule was to win. The bridge speakers crackled as a message came in from Earth. "Retribution, this is Admiral Rodriguez. All fleet units are to report status immediately." Morrison opened the communication channel. Rodriguez, this is Morrison. The Retribution is ready for combat. All systems green, crew at battle stations. Good to hear, Jake. You're going to be our first line of defense when those alien ships arrive. Your job is to make them think twice. About what they're doing here. Understood, sir. What's our rules of engagement? If they come in peace, we'll talk. If they come with threats, we'll give them one chance to leave. If they start shooting, you have permission to show them why. Humans don't make good slaves. 20 minutes later, Morrison received similar reports from the other ships in the human fleet. Captain Tony Brooks and the UES Vengeance had finished loading their antimatter torpedoes. The Vengeance specialized in long-range strikes, using weapons that could destroy entire city blocks with a single hit. Captain Nicole Turner reported that the UES Defiance was ready with its particle beam weapons. The Defiance served as the fleet's heavy assault ship, designed to punch holes in the strongest enemy defenses. But the real surprises were hidden throughout the solar system, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves. Morrison pulled up a classified file showing Project Hammerfall, humanity's secret weapon network. Over the past 10 years, human engineers had hollowed out dozens of asteroids and turned them into hidden weapons platforms. Each platform contained massive railguns capable of accelerating projectiles to incredible speeds. The tungsten rods they fired could punch through ship hulls like bullets through paper. Colonel Dan Foster commanded the Hammerfall network from a control center built inside the asteroid series. His message appeared on Morrison's screen, showing a middle-aged man with gray hair and determined eyes. All Hammerfall stations report ready for action, Foster said. We have targeting solutions on the approaching alien fleet. When you give the word, we can put 100 rounds downrange in the first 10 seconds. Morrison studied the tactical situation. The alien fleet was still 2 days away, but human long-range sensors could track their movement precisely. The aliens were approaching in a perfect formation, obviously expecting an easy victory against primitive human forces. They have no idea what they're flying into, Morrison said to his bridge crew. Look at that formation. They're bunched up like targets at a shooting range. Hayes pulled up analysis of the alien ships. Intelligence says they rely heavily on energy shields and plasma weapons. Their ships are fast and maneuverable, but they're not heavily armored underneath those shields. Good thing we specialize in kinetic weapons, Morrison replied. Hard to stop a chunk of metal moving at 30,000 kilometers per second, no matter how fancy your shields are. Dr. Parker showed Morrison her latest research on alien military tactics. They prefer to intimidate enemies into surrendering, rather than fight prolonged battles. Their standard procedure is to arrive with overwhelming force, make demands, and wait for the enemy to give up. That might work on species that value their lives more than their freedom, Morrison said. But they picked the wrong planet to threaten. Humans don't surrender. We fight until we win or until there's nothing left to fight with. The next morning, Morrison received an encrypted message from Earth. President Carter was authorizing the activation of all defense systems. The alien fleet would arrive in 36 hours, and humanity needed to be ready for the worst-case scenario. Morrison called his senior officers to the briefing room. The walls were covered with tactical displays showing the position of every human ship and weapon platform in the solar system. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison began, in 36 hours we're going to find out if 10,000 years of human warfare evolution was worth something. The aliens are coming here expecting to find scared primitives who will surrender at the first sign of superior technology. He pointed to the display showing the alien fleet. They're about to learn that humans don't scare easily. We've been fighting wars since we learned to pick up sticks and hit each other with them. We've perfected the art of killing our own species for millennia. Now we get to see how those lessons apply on a galactic scale. Commander Hayes studied the alien ship specifications. Their weapons look impressive, but they're designed for fighting other aliens. Other species surrender when they take heavy casualties. Humans keep fighting even when the odds are hopeless. Exactly, Morrison agreed. They think war is about demonstrating superiority until your enemy gives up. We think war is about destroying your enemy so completely that surrender is not an option. Dr. Parker pulled up her analysis of alien psychology. Most galactic species avoid unnecessary casualties. They see war as a last resort and prefer to negotiate peaceful solutions. Humans are the only species that seems to actually enjoy combat. Morrison nodded. That gives us a huge advantage. They'll be shocked when we don't surrender after taking losses. They'll be even more shocked when we keep fighting back harder than before. The meeting ended with final preparations for battle. Every human in the solar system knew what was at stake. If they lost this fight, humanity would become slaves to an alien empire that had never learned to respect the word no. But if they won, they would announce to the galaxy that Earth was not for conquest. They would show every alien civilization that humans were not victims waiting to be rescued, or primitives waiting to be civilized. They were apex predators who had spent their entire evolutionary history learning to kill, and they were about to apply those lessons on a cosmic scale. Space twisted and bent as 200 alien warships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. The ships arranged themselves in a perfect formation that stretched across millions of kilometers, their hulls gleaming with exotic metals and energy fields that made them shine like stars against the black void. Admiral Kexthul stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Sovereign's Pride, watching the tactical displays with satisfaction. The massive vessel measured 2 kilometers from bow to stern, its hull covered in smooth armor plating that could deflect plasma beams and energy torpedoes. Weapon ports lined the ship's sides, each one containing enough firepower to level a city. "All ships report ready for action," announced his tactical officer, a younger member of his species whose armor plates were still bright silver instead of battle-scarred gray. "The human homeworld is 12 hours away at current speed." Kexthul studied the sensor readings from Earth's solar system. His instruments detected primitive fusion reactors, basic radio communications, and what looked like chemical-powered rockets moving between the inner planets. Everything confirmed what the Galactic Council had expected. Humanity was a young, backward species that had barely learned to leave their home world. "Begin the standard first contact protocol," Kexthul ordered. "Broadcast our demands on all frequencies. Make sure these humans understand exactly what situation they have created for themselves." The communication beam that left the Sovereign's Pride contained the same message that had been delivered to dozens of other species over the centuries. The aliens had refined this process until it worked like a machine, turning independent worlds into obedient colonies with minimal effort. Deep inside a mountain in Colorado, Captain Jake Morrison sat in the United Earth Defense Command Center, listening to the alien message with growing anger. The transmission was being broadcast in 17 different languages, but the meaning was clear in all of them. "People of Earth," the alien voice said in perfect English, "you have been contacted by the Galactic Council, the governing body of all civilized species in this region of space. Your species has developed faster-than-light travel without permission, and has established colonies without following proper procedures." Morrison exchanged glances with the other officers in the room. President Carter sat at the head of the conference table, her face calm, but her eyes showing the fury she felt at the alien's arrogant tone. The alien message continued. "You will immediately surrender all military vessels and weapons to Council forces. You will accept the placement of Council governors on all your worlds. You will submit to genetic and psychological testing to determine your species' proper role in galactic society. You will pay reparations for the resources you have used without authorization." "And if we refuse?" Carter asked quietly. Though she knew the aliens could not hear her, the alien voice answered her question anyway. "Species that refuse integration into galactic society are considered hostile and will be dealt with accordingly. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our advanced vessels. Your small population cannot resist our combined fleets. Surrender now and your species will be allowed to survive as servants. Resist and be destroyed." Morrison stood up and walked to the communication console. "Put me on the main channel," he told the technician. "It's time to give these aliens our answer." The message that left Earth 30 seconds later was unlike anything the Galactic Council had ever received from a new species. Morrison's voice was calm and professional, but every word carried the weight of 10,000 years of human warfare. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. You have entered our territorial space without permission and have made demands that no free people will ever accept. You have 1 hour to withdraw your fleet from our system. If you refuse, we will consider your presence an act of war and respond accordingly." On the bridge of the Sovereign's Pride, Admiral Kexthul stared at the communication display in disbelief. In 800 years of military service, no species had ever responded to the Council's demands with threats of their own. Most new civilizations sent desperate pleas for mercy or offers of tribute. These humans were actually challenging the combined might of 12 galactic empires. "Did they just threaten us?" asked his tactical officer. "I believe they did," Kexthul replied. He opened a communication channel to the rest of the fleet. "All ships, maintain current course and speed. Prepare for combat operations, but do not fire unless fired upon. These humans will learn their place soon enough." 45 minutes later, long-range sensors detected a single ship moving toward the alien fleet. The vessel appeared on the tactical displays as a dark, angular mass bristling with weapon systems and sensor arrays. It looked nothing like the elegant, streamlined ships that civilized species preferred to build. "Analysis of the approaching vessel," Kexthul ordered. "The ship measures 800 meters in length," his science officer reported. "Hull composition appears to be layered metal alloys with ceramic armor plating. I detect multiple fusion, reactors, magnetic field generators, and what appears to be a large particle accelerator running the length of the ship." Kexthul nodded. "Primitive but functional. Begin jamming their communications and sensors. When they realize they cannot coordinate with their homeworld, they will surrender immediately." But the human ship continued its approach, apparently unaffected by the alien jamming attempts. As it drew closer, more details became visible on the tactical displays. The vessel was covered in gun turrets, missile launchers, and defensive systems. It looked less like a spaceship and more like a flying fortress. "Sir," the tactical officer said nervously, "the human vessel is not responding to our jamming. Their sensors appear to be operating at full efficiency, and they're actively scanning our formation." "Impossible," Kexthul replied. "No species develops effective countermeasures to counsel technology so quickly." The human ship stopped exactly 1 million kilometers from the alien fleet and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Captain Morrison's voice filled the communication channels with a message that would be remembered throughout galactic history. "This is Captain Morrison, aboard the UES Retribution. You have ignored our warning to leave this system. Your presence here threatens the security and independence of the human species. In accordance with the laws of war, as recognized by all civilized peoples, we are giving you one final opportunity to withdraw." Admiral Kexthul activated his ship's main communication array. "Human Captain, you are addressing Admiral Kexthul of the Hegemony Fleet. Your single ship faces 200 vessels from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Surrender now, and your crew will be treated according to the customs of war." Morrison's response came back immediately. "Admiral, your ships may be advanced, but you made one critical mistake. You assumed that because we're young, we must be weak. You assumed that because our technology looks primitive, it must be ineffective. Most importantly, you assumed that humans would surrender rather than fight for our freedom." "And what makes you think one ship can stand against my entire fleet?" Kexthul asked. "Because you've never fought humans before," Morrison replied. "You've never faced a species that has spent its entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of war. You're about to learn why we don't make good slaves." The communication channel went quiet for 30 seconds. Then Morrison's voice returned, carrying a tone that made even experienced alien warriors feel a chill of fear. "All stations. This is Captain Morrison. You have authorization to engage. Show them what happens when they threaten our home." The UES Retribution's weapon systems came online like the opening notes of a symphony of destruction. Point defense turrets swiveled toward the alien formation, missile tubes opened to reveal their deadly contents, and the ship's main railguns began charging with power that made the surrounding space crackle with energy. Admiral Kexthul watched the tactical displays with growing concern. The human ship was not running away or trying to hide. Instead, it was preparing to fight against impossible odds with what appeared to be complete confidence in victory. "All ships, attack formation," Kexthul ordered. "Disable the human vessel and prepare to take prisoners. These primitives need to learn what happens when they challenge the Galactic Council." 200 alien warships began moving toward the lone human vessel, their weapons charging and shields strengthening. They expected to overwhelm the single enemy ship with superior numbers and advanced technology. They had no idea they were flying into the most sophisticated killing field ever devised by any species in galactic history. Behind the human ship, Hidden among the asteroids and debris of the outer solar system, dozens of weapons platforms began powering up. Throughout the solar system, human vessels that had been running silent suddenly came online, their crews ready for the fight of their lives. The aliens were about to learn that humans had been preparing for this moment since the day they first looked up at the stars and wondered what was waiting for them in the darkness between worlds. The first shot came from the UES Retribution's forward railgun battery. 3 tungsten rods, each weighing 50 kilograms, screamed across space at 30,000 kilometers per second. The alien fleet's sensors barely had time to register the projectiles before they punched through the shields of the lead Vorthan cruiser and tore the ship apart from the inside. Admiral Kexthul watched in shock as one of his most advanced vessels simply ceased to exist. The tungsten rounds had passed through the ship's plasma shields like they were not even there, then continued through the hull and out the other side, leaving a path of destruction that caused the fusion reactors to explode. "How is that possible?" he demanded. "Our shields can stop plasma beams and energy torpedoes." "They're using kinetic weapons, sir," his science officer replied, his voice shaking. "Solid projectiles moving at relativistic speeds. Our shields are designed to deflect energy, not stop physical matter moving that fast." The human ship fired again, and 2 more alien vessels disappeared in brief flashes of light. The tungsten rounds were invisible until impact, giving the aliens no time to maneuver or strengthen their defenses. Each shot was perfectly aimed, striking at the exact points where the alien ships were most vulnerable. But that was only the beginning of humanity's demonstration. As the alien fleet began to spread out and return fire, space around them erupted with activity that defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. Point defense systems along the Retribution's hull came online, filling the void with streams of hypervelocity projectiles. The aliens had sent fighter craft ahead of their main fleet, expecting the small, fast vessels to overwhelm the human ship's defenses. Instead, the fighters ran into a wall of metal that shredded their hulls and left nothing but expanding clouds of debris. "Their point defenses are impossible," the tactical officer reported. "They're tracking and destroying targets moving at combat speeds with perfect accuracy. No species has ever developed fire control systems that sophisticated." Admiral Kexthul tried to process what he was seeing. Human technology looked primitive, but it was proving devastatingly effective against weapons and defenses that had dominated galactic warfare for centuries. The humans were not trying to match alien technology. They were using completely different approaches that made alien advantages irrelevant. Then the real surprises began. As the alien fleet closed to medium range, hoping to overwhelm the single human ship with concentrated fire, new contacts appeared on sensors throughout the battle zone. The UES Vengeance decloaked on the alien fleet's left flank, her hull scarred from years of combat exercises, but her weapons systems gleaming with deadly purpose. Captain Tony Brooks had waited until the aliens were committed to their attack formation before revealing his position. "This is Captain Brooks to all alien vessels." His voice crackled over the communication channels. "Welcome to human space. I hope you enjoy your stay." The Vengeance fired a spread of antimatter torpedoes, each warhead containing enough destructive power to level a mountain. The missiles moved slower than railgun rounds, but carried their own guidance systems and electronic countermeasures. 3 alien ships tried to intercept the torpedoes with point defense fire, but the human missiles were designed to penetrate alien defenses. The explosions that followed turned night to day across millions of kilometers. Where the alien ships had been only expanding balls of superheated plasma remained. The antimatter warheads had converted matter directly to energy with perfect efficiency, leaving nothing behind but radiation and scattered atoms. Admiral Kexthul's flagship shuddered as shockwaves from the explosions reached his position. "Status. Report!" he shouted over the alarms. 7 ships destroyed, 12 more with heavy damage," his tactical officer replied. "The humans are using weapons we've never encountered before. Our defenses are not effective against their attack methods." Then sensors detected movement from the asteroid belt. Dozens of contacts that had appeared to be ordinary rocks suddenly revealed themselves as hidden weapons platforms. Project Hammerfall came online with devastating effect, sending streams of tungsten rods across the solar system at speeds that made them nearly impossible to track or intercept. Colonel Dan Foster sat in his command center inside the asteroid Ceres, watching as his carefully planned crossfire patterns tore through the alien formation. Each weapons platform had been positioned to create overlapping fields of fire, turning the space around Earth into a killing ground that would make any military strategist proud. "Hammerfall Alpha through Delta, commence firing," Foster ordered, calmly. "Target priority is command ships and heavy cruisers. Make every shot count." The alien fleet found itself caught in a trap that had been years in the making. No matter which direction they turned, tungsten rounds were streaking toward them from hidden positions. The projectiles moved too fast for shields to stop and hit too hard for armor to deflect. Ship after ship simply disintegrated under the relentless bombardment. From behind Earth's moon, the UES Defiance emerged at full acceleration, her particle beam arrays already charging for maximum power. Captain Nicole Turner had spent the last hour positioning her ship for a flanking attack that would catch the aliens by surprise. "This is Captain Turner," she announced on all frequencies. "I'd like to personally thank you aliens for arranging yourselves in such a convenient target formation. This is going to be much easier than we expected." The Defiance fired her main weapons, sending beams of coherent particles across space at the speed of light. Unlike the kinetic weapons used by the other human ships, particle beams could penetrate shields and armor by disrupting atomic bonds at the molecular level. Alien ships began coming apart piece by piece as their hulls dissolved under the assault. Admiral Kex Thule realized that his carefully planned demonstration of superiority had become a massacre. His fleet was being systematically destroyed by weapons and tactics that seemed impossible. The humans were not fighting like any species he had ever encountered. "All ships, retreat to hyperspace jump distance," he ordered desperately. "We need to regroup and analyze their capabilities before attempting another assault." But the human ships moved to intercept the retreating aliens, their acceleration rates far higher than anything the Council species had expected from primitive fusion drives. The Retribution led the pursuit, her weapons continuing to fire with mechanical precision that left no room for escape. Captain Morrison stood on his bridge, watching the tactical display with professional satisfaction. "Helm, maintain pursuit course. Weapons, target their engines and hyperspace drives. I want to disable as many of their ships as possible before they can jump away." Commander Hayes worked his weapons console like a master musician, each shot perfectly timed and targeted. "Their technology is impressive, but they've never learned to fight dirty. They keep trying to use their shields and armor instead of maneuvering to avoid our attacks." Dr. Parker studied the sensor readings from the alien ships. "They're designed for fighting other energy-based civilizations. Their entire military doctrine is built around shield penetration and armor ablation. They have no defenses against pure kinetic energy." Lieutenant Mitchell monitored alien communications, translating their panic-filled messages as the retreat became a rout. "They're calling this an impossible defeat. They can't understand how a primitive species could destroy so many advanced ships." The battle lasted exactly 27 minutes from first shot to final explosion. Of the 200 ships that had arrived to demand humanity's surrender, fewer than 50 survived to limp away into hyperspace. The remainder were either destroyed outright or disabled and drifting dead in space. Admiral Kexathule's flagship barely made it to the hyperspace jump point, her hull breached in dozens of places, and her crew working frantically to keep life support systems running. As the Sovereign's Pride prepared to jump away from the nightmare that Earth had become, Kex-Thule sent one final message to the human ships. "This is not over," he broadcast. "The Council will send more ships. We will return with weapons designed specifically to counter your tactics." Captain Morrison's response was immediate and chilling. "Admiral, you're welcome to try. But next time, bring more ships. 200 wasn't nearly enough to make this interesting." The surviving alien vessels vanished into hyperspace, carrying news of their defeat to a galaxy that would struggle to believe what had happened. The humans had not just won a battle, they had redefined what galactic warfare looked like. In the silence that followed, Morrison looked around his bridge at the crew who had just helped humanity announce itself to the galaxy in the most unmistakable way possible. They were no longer an unknown species on the edge of civilized space. They were apex predators who had just proven that 10,000 years of human warfare evolution had produced something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that treated war not as a last resort but as an art form to be perfected. The news of humanity's victory spread across the galaxy faster than hyperspace travel itself. Within hours of the battle, encrypted military communications were carrying detailed reports to every major civilization in known space. The impossible had happened. A young species had defeated the combined might of the Galactic Council using weapons and tactics that defied everything the established powers thought they knew about warfare. On the hegemony homeworld of Krextar, Grand Admiral Vothuk studied battle recordings with growing dread. The massive reptilian commander had ruled his species' military forces for 3 centuries and had never seen anything like the human combat doctrine. His officers gathered around the holographic display, watching in silence as human weapons tore through shields and armor that had protected alien fleets for millennia. "Run the analysis again," Vothuk ordered his tactical staff. "I want to understand exactly how they achieved such devastating results." The battle recording played in slow motion, showing tungsten rods punching through Vorthon's shields like they were made of paper. The science officer, a smaller member of the same species, manipulated the controls to highlight energy readings and impact trajectories. The humans used pure kinetic energy weapons fired at relativistic speeds, the officer explained. "Our shields are designed to deflect plasma beams and energy torpedoes by redirecting electromagnetic fields. But solid matter moving at 30,000 kilometers per second cannot be stopped by field manipulation." Admiral Vothuk watched,